Okay, sound check, light check. I think we're ready to roll. Ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Hi, everyone. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. I hope this finds you safe and secure wherever you are in the world. We have members, subscribers from Estonia to Taiwan to China, even Africa, of course, all over the North America, from all the way down in Brazil up to Canada and everywhere in between. I feel honored to be part of this Sangha and to share my experiences and thoughts over more than 40 years of searching and practice. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. NICHIREN, our modern day mentor, exemplar. We are reading about his life via a forgotten book. I call it a forgotten book because it went out of print long ago, and there's this wonderful website or entity called forgottenbooks.com, and they're reprinting. A lot of these are from academic institutions where books were printed as a matter of course for professors and so forth. This is from Harvard University. Masaharu Anesaki is the author, although he had several editors and so forth who contributed. And we can see evidence of that. At least I think I can see evidence of that. Harvard being a Western institution with a lot of that Western religious, cultural, inculcated thinking in it. So having to extract a lot of that rhetoric, which doesn't belong in Buddhism at all. Odd that a Japanese professor, although at Harvard, would adopt this rhetoric. Some chapters do have more than others, quite much more. And so you could see probably a heavy editorial influence, right? This book was written at the turn of the last century in the early 1900s. It was published in 1915-16 at Harvard Press. So, yeah, probably a lot of influence there. But it doesn't help us with our search for the meaning in Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra, or Nichiren's doctrine, for that matter. It gets in the way and confuses a lot of people. So I'm doing my best to extricate from that rhetoric, just to stick to the Buddhist fundamentals. It comes through, but if you're not accustomed to sifting that cultural bias out, and you're just starting out in Buddhism, you might start to think, well, this is just another religion like everything else. Before I get started here, just a quick point, as I am wont to do quite often. What is the difference between religion and Buddhism? And one way that I address that is that, who was it? It was a great photographer who said this. She said, I don't like to believe in anything that requires me to believe, which I think identifies this problem of language. Belief, certainly in the West and maybe universally, requires a mental commitment to something that can't be proven, and at the same time, because it can't be proven, it can't be unproven. In other words, it's a complete fabrication of the human mind. That's what all those fancy words are saying, right? If you can't prove something or disprove something, then it's a contrivance. It's something created, and maybe that's useful. Sometimes it may be useful. But this is something that Shakyamuni, in his writings, absolutely abhorred. He abhorred it in India with all of the fantastical, mystical, magical thinking of Hinduism and Brahmin, all these various religions, and there were many in India back in his day, almost 3,000 years ago. And he actually identified this very thing, not religion specifically, but this kind of thinking that was the human disease that created all of this tension and anxiety and stress and what we summarize under the umbrella of suffering, right? He never said suffering. He was talking about dukkha. Dukkha, a state of unrest, a state of dis-ease, right? And you've heard all the folklore about that, so I won't repeat it. But my point being that Buddhism does not require belief. It doesn't even look to belief as a solution. It is identified as the very problem in Buddhism. So when you read things that say, believe this and soul that and faith this, you're not reading Buddhism. You're reading a westernization, use of keywords that people latch onto because of the charisma of those words, and has really nothing to do with the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha or Nichiren. But we see it a lot. So I want to disabuse you of that. One of the reasons I started my website long before I started doing videos was to suss that out, to get it out of the way, because it was confusing me early on. You know, I was born French Canadian in Quebec, Canada, an old seat, hundreds of years old, predating the United States, based on Catholic worldview, yeah? So, yeah, I'm not a New Age Christian. I was an old school Catholic catechism school, right? And I knew growing up the fantasy that was didn't appeal to me at all. Thank goodness. So that led me on a path very early in my life to look for meaning and truth. So obviously I end up with Buddhism. Buddhism, just so I spit it out here, rather than belief, relies solely on observation and experience. You might say those are the same thing, but not quite. Observation is your mind recording what is happening, and experience is an internal proof, actual experience of. It doesn't require belief. All it requires is you're paying attention. That sounds a lot like what Shakyamuni spent his whole life talking about. Pay attention. Why do we call it awakening? As if from a dream, right? The dream is the magical, mystical, something will save me. Something out there is more powerful than me. There is a higher power. There's hundreds of ways of rhetoricizing this outside, like the universe, life is happening to us. And Shakyamuni said, bullcrap. Life isn't happening to you. What are you, victim? You're walking around waiting for things to explode? What are you, a dumb insect, an animal? No. You control. You are the one experiencing with that fabulous mental capacity to observe, note, describe, right? The database, the warehouse of identification. Instead of using all that identification skill that you're constantly doing to possess and hang on to things, which ultimately is your setup for suffering, instead use that amazing capacity to simply understand that everything, moment to moment, birthday, is on the universe, this life engine that is the universe, is happening moment to moment. The past moment, whether it's a nanosecond ago or 1,000 years ago, it's only relevant in this moment. Live in this moment, in this life, and understand that everything is doing exactly that. If you understand that everything, the engine of life, is a moment-to-moment instantiation, instead of trying to cling to things, because that's not happening. Nothing is static. Nothing in it. The planet, your feet, the blood in your veins, nothing stands still. Let go of that idea and just participate in the grand beingness of life. Wow. What a release that is. What an emancipation, a liberation. Right? I mean, you're here, you're living life, you still have stuff, but your identity doesn't depend upon it. I don't exist because I have stuff or people or emotions or any of that. But I do exist via my experience totally of a life. Right? You are not separate from the clouds in the sky. If you took away the sky and the clouds, what would you look like then? It's obvious. Everything's happening together. That's that idea of oneness that, Western thought derides as some kind of childish thought. It's exactly the opposite. To conceive of life as it's universally happening moment to moment to moment is much more real. You can observe it, you can witness it, and you are experiencing it. No need for proof. The proof is in your experience. Right? Can you disprove your experience? Why? That would be tantamount to immolation. Right? And we know religion's got that covered. We're not living out our lives as some kind of atonement for something we did wrong. What did you do wrong? You're living moment to moment. If you screw up in this moment, who's paying for it? You are. Life is happening for us to experience, to witness. There's nothing more real than this moment, this experience. This is what Shakyamuni was trying to teach people. But, that scared a lot of people, because that means that I'm responsible for my happiness. I'm responsible for getting through obstacles. I can't look elsewhere for something outside of myself, whether it's mystical or mom and dad. Eventually, I have to own my life. Oh, man, that's tough. Yeah, it can seem so if you've been trained into this dependence on others. That's why Buddhism isn't a religion. Buddhism is about you discovering your own life completely. And once you get accustomed to that, you can't go back. Once you get accustomed to, wow, this is my life, the way I experience it, that's quite amazing. And that's what we're doing. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, invoking the clarity of that understanding. Yeah? So with all of that, did I not make a mark? We were reading a quote of some of NICHIREN's writings as interpreted by the author. And I'll just think we already read this, but it will, anything Nichiren writes bears repeating anyway, so here we go. This is because Buddha, the awakened, wakes us. Isn't that what I was just saying? Who are dreaming the dreams of birth and death. What does that mean? The birth and death, birth, death, birth, death. We dream that they are permanent. That once we dream or a moment is born and all of this happens, that it continues to exist in the form of that moment forever. But it doesn't. See, this is key. The past is the past because it's no longer here. I'm not saying the past doesn't exist. Well, yes, I am. It doesn't exist. It existed. Let's get our language right, yeah? Just because something happened yesterday, a week ago, a millennia ago, it doesn't change this moment. This moment is this moment. See this moment as it is. And by the way, as you're analyzing that, it's gone. We have momentum. We are moving through time-space. We are creating time-space. We are energy in motion. So the moment you consider a moment, you're moving into the next moment. That's how rapidly, look at all those lives. Because birth and death aren't life. Birth and death are moments within life. Language, right? Therefore, Buddha says that we are his children. You see the analogy there? That Buddhaness has no time. That the clarity of understanding the energy, the engine of life that is the universe, that's always happening, moment to moment to moment to moment. Our cluing in to observing it and experiencing it is our awakening from the dream of just falling through it and waiting for things to happen. We can conduct, we can direct the way we experience our lives. What? Yeah. Instead of waiting for, oof, where'd that wall come from? We can direct our lives. We can nudge our momentum. We have agency. We're not magical. We can't say, today I'm going to be emperor. Well, you are emperor of yourself. But if that's your goal, then you need to work toward it moment to moment to moment. So our lives' momentum can be influenced consciously by our determination rather than waiting for something to happen. So in that way, we are the life engine's children. We are produced of this amazing moment-to-moment instantiation of potential, you see? Huh? In fact, we have kind of a freight train of energies, an amalgam of tendencies and conditions that are moving through time-space. And they tend to instantiate, and the potential for them to instantiate, them being our energies, is unrestricted. The only restrictions we can put on that freight train of energies is with our conscious determination. If you're not consciously determined about the way your life is moving through time, then negative instantiations are just as valid as wonderful ones. Who's going to judge them negative or wonderful except you? Take control. You notice it happening, negative stuff starting to bubble up in your life. Stop that. Let's move this. Let's take that negative and let's move that into a position where it's life affirming, positive, full of amazement. But amazement can be negative or positive. It's up on your mind to make that valuation. Are you going to nurture bad or negative behavior? Stuff that is hurtful? Not ideal? Or will I move my karmic freight train on paths that are more life-affirming, more supportive of my Buddhaness instead of my stupidness? Yeah? Think of this. Then Buddha is the Father and we are the children, both in the origin and the consummation, because the fundamental nature and the final destiny are one in the Father and the children, right? That he's referring an old cultural saying there, right? That in our karmic lineage, through our ancestry, we can almost identify certain freight trains of karma. We are our own, but certainly we have also, through our physical birth, amalgamated with father, parent, grandfather, grandparents, so on and so forth. That freight train we've heaped our own colors on, our own energies into. So we're not just strictly independent things. We are an independent amalgam of histories of energies. We're not our father. We're not our mother. We have karma from them, but we are a third entity that inculcates not just theirs, but their amalgams and their amalgams. So there's a lot of karmic energy amalgamated in who we are that we don't really have any knowledge of how it was created other than when the sparks fly, right? And those sparks can be brilliant and amazing, and they can be, where the hell did that came from? But it's up to us in this moment to decide how to experience those moments. And if they seem to be negative, whatever that is for you, then that's fine, because there it is for you to address. No, you're not going to be negative. We need to move that on the positive side, on the positive column of my balance sheet. How amazing. I wonder what amalgam of energies that came from. Oh, I can see it in my mother, or I can see it in my great uncle. That's what they were talking. That's why we're in this country. That's why I'm living this life. I don't have to continue doing that. I can fold that into my brilliant, amazing life, right? We can influence our karmic engine. And how do we influence it? With the ultimate experience of life. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, my Buddhaness. Instead of reacting to life, I can be actively integrating, influencing my life. And oh, by the way, as my life is so huge in its momentum, it includes all life around me, my identity. So my identity isn't strictly me. It's a ball of light within photons all over the place. I influence her and him and them, and right? We're very connected. As we focus on our Buddhaness, we understand this more and more, because everything that we do now radiates out. It's not just, this is me, this is mine, all mine. Well, you'd be drowning in mine. It's a miserable life. Again, the analogy of filial responsibility, or father and child, or mother and child, yeah? When we perceive thus that our life experience is one in Buddhaness and in us, that there's no me and you or separation, that our experience is not separate from the life of the universe, but within it, simply an expression of it. Wow. Yeah? Our dreams of birth and deaths are broken. This idea of attachment to every moment. Oh, well, it's always been this way, therefore it must be this way today. Well, no, you're making that commitment. You don't have to repeat the past. The past is the past. You now have the opportunity for completely different influence. And the original enlightenment, the engine of life, is restored in our awakening. This is the attainment of Buddhahood in this present life. The witnessing of the process. It doesn't have to wait until you die, because you won't be here to experience it. Right? When Chung Chao dreamt that he became a butterfly, there was none other than Chung Chao. Just as there was none beside himself when he woke up and knew that he was not a butterfly. Do you see the analogy of the dream there? Remember that old story? We read about it in his writings, his Gosho. Chuang Chao was quite startled when he woke up to discover he wasn't a butterfly. That didn't make his dream any less real, right? So our samsaric attachment to all things moment to moment, as though they're permanent, possessed, owned, is like dreaming we're a butterfly. But when we awaken our Buddhaness, we see that it doesn't negate the dream, it negates our attachment to it, our possession of it. It liberates us to move forward in time, yeah? When we consider ourselves to be mortals tormented by births and deaths, we are immersed in illusion and delusion, as Chuang became a butterfly in his dream. The original Chuang is restored when we realize that we are the Tathagatas of original enlightenment. This is the attainment and existence, these three, of Buddhahood in the present life. The essence, the practice, the experience, the Buddha, and the existence are these three, are laid up in our own existence, beside which there is no reality. So again, the three bodies. The instantiation of this body to have a mind, a sentient mind, is requisite, is the very part of, is the Buddha manifest body. Manifest body for what purpose? For what reason? For what? That mind to perceive, experience the process of life, the Dharma. And in perceiving the Dharma body from the manifest body, we experience reward body, this life. Those are the three Buddha bodies, right? They all happen moment to moment, but their distinguishment are as this manifestation of potential, witnessing Dharma, experiencing the knowledge of that Dharma. That is enlightenment, the three bodies of Buddha. It's not mystical. It's a language of identification of the process that we are experiencing moment to moment to moment. We can't identify that if we're dead, because we and dead are not the same thing. We assumes a sentient mind. This is the great, amazing realization of Buddhaness in this life. That with the sentient mind, we can experience the Dharma, the process of life, consciously. Amazing to witness. We don't need to drag anything along. We don't need to look for this experience in some other place after this life. It's happening here, now. Don't miss it. Wake up. That's Buddhism in a nutshell. Although in this chapter, my goodness, is the Christian rhetoric pushed in here. Well, it's not just Christian. This whole idea of soul. This is the Enlightenment. This is Buddhahood. When the truth of the mutual participation between the one and the many, between the particular and the universal, is fully realized, we shall know that everything and all things are found in each existence in this present life. Each existence, and your and your and everything in time, in this universal engine of life, happening moment to moment, this incredible momentum, our ever-expanding universe life, see them as the same. Not just interrelated. Follow? This is what NICHIREN is saying here. All truths revealed during the lifetime of a master are only truths existent in ourselves. Know this, and your own entity is revealed. Your own Buddha, your own access, your own Gohanzon, your portal of understanding, experiencing, is obvious. Life moment to moment. All this is fully taught in the Lotus of Truth, and the way to grasp it is to invoke that very teaching by its title, by its conceptual captured essence. Invoke Buddhaness. This is what Shakyamuni taught. Thereby you will attain the final enlightenment without impediment, and know the relation between self-perfection and the enlightenment of others. This is the testimony common to all Buddhas of the 3 ages, past, present, and future. Keep it as a precious moment, a precious perception. Now, the author. Everyone who realizes the truth of the fundamental unity is a Buddha, and everyone who lives in accordance with this enlightenment and works to propagate the lotus of truth is the messenger of the primeval Tathagata, the original enlightenment. In other words, Buddhaness. To such a man or woman, all that surrounds him preaches the truth, and the place of his abode is a paradise, the Buddha land. This idea of the connection between the actual life and the original enlightenment inspired NICHIREN to such a degree that he always regarded his abode as a Buddha land, as we should. He voiced this feeling like a lyric poet, glorifying thus the hills and the waters of Minobu. In a note, as in several others, he gives utterances to these thoughts. And here's another quote, just to show that this was NICHIREN's experience of Buddhaness, yeah? Quote, when the autumn evening draws on, lonesomely, the surroundings of the thatched hermitage are bedewed, and the spiders' webs hanging from the eaves are transformed into garlands of jewels. Noiselessly, deeply tinged maple leaves come floating on the water that pours from the bamboo pipes, and the water, colored in pattern, seems to stream forth from the fountain of Tatsuta, where the brocade-weaving lady is said to abide. Behind the hermitage, the steep peaks rear their heads aloft, where on the slopes the trees bear the fruits of the unique truth. And the singing crickets are heard among the branches. In front flow clear rivulets, making music like drums and flutes, and the pools reflect the moonlight of reality as it is. When the limitless sky of entity is cloudless and the moon shines bright, it seems as if the darkness of the shrouding delusion was gone forever. In the hermitage thus situated, throughout the day we converse and discuss the truths of the unique scripture or text, or sermon, more accurately, while in the evening and late into the night is heard the gentle murmur of the recitation of passages from the Lotus Sutra. Thus we deem that to this place has been transferred to Vulture Peak, where Lord Shakya lives. We instantiate that when we do Gangyo. It's exactly what he's saying. When fog veils the valley, and even when gale is blowing, we go to gather wood in the forest, or through the bedewed bushes down to the dells to pick parsley leaves. Reflecting on these conditions of my present life, I often think, so it must have been with Shakyamuni Buddha, when he was in search of the truth and disciplining himself in expiation and in mortification, right? His early Brahmanic investigations into enlightenment. Thus thinking, I sit on the mat of meditation, and in vision I see every truth present to my mind, so that even the call of a deer to its mate helps me to utter the innermost voice in my heart. Here I realize why, being shrouded by the heavy clouds of illusion, we transmigrate through the 9, the 10 worlds, while the pure, bright moon shines within me. The illumination of the threefold aspect of reality, there's those 3 bodies again, fused into one, and the light of the threefold introspection of one and the same practice, experience. Thus I put my thoughts into verse. Masses of clouds and thickening fog, heaping upon me and shrouding the world, let them be dispelled by a freshening breeze. The wind that perpetually blows from Vulture Peak, whence streams forth the air of the eternal truth. And the author jumps in. In short, everything in Nichiren's surroundings suggested to him something related to his ideal and to his present life in service to the truth. The poet, however, was never content merely to cherish these thoughts, but interpreted his environment by the sermon. Thus, he writes about his abode in the language of the sermon and describes his life, quote, "There follow several illustrative stories about the former lives of Buddha. All this is summed up in the verse. Having served the masters by collecting wood and gathering herbs and by fetching water for them, I have at last attained this enlightenment, the enlightenment in the Lotus of Truth." I don't know if this is still a quote. "Indeed, all this is in the service of the Lotus of Truth. Similarly, all that Nichiren has done and is doing is for the perpetuation of this truth and the emancipation of the beings of the latter days, for us. 9 out of the 10 resorts, that is, excepting Buddhahood, the 9 are the Bodhisattva, the Pratyeka Buddha, the self-satisfied recluse, the Sravaka, one content with learning, the celestial being, mankind, the Preta, the hungry ghost, the beast, the Asuras, and the beings in the hells. The 3 are vacuity, phenomenal appearance, and the view of the middle path. The introspection of the experience under the 3 categories of reality. There, as if it were illuminated by the glories of paradise, whatever that is, the author now continues, not only Minobu, but every place connected with the life of the prophet, of the one who is living the life of the Lotus of Truth, was glorified by him. This is the description, once again, of the amazement of realization of Buddhaness. That everything is happening in this moment, and that to accept, to immerse yourself in this life of potentials means that you can be in the momentum, really in life, and that everything occurring in this life is amazing. It's wonderful. Even if it's perceived as negative, that is a quality put upon it. And if that quality is something that you don't wish to maintain, then don't. It's all on your experience, your quickly operating mind, your perception, your witnessing, to choose to affect whatever seems unpleasant to work to your benefit. Alter it. It may take time to alter it, but that is nonetheless your commitment. Your Buddhaness requires this of you. And if everything you experience moment to moment is either celebratory at the amazement of this process of life, or addressing obstacles, negativity, those things, those activities that would bring you out of amazement and modify them toward the balance sheet of, well, that's amazing too. I don't have to put upon that a drag of negativity. that I can experience it for what it is, this moment to moment. Oh, I've got mud all over my new shoes. Wow, look at that mud. I'll have to wash these shoes. There's no reason to be negative about it. And it only takes a certain amount of time of doing that before negativity isn't negative anymore. It's just, oh well. What's important is the happening of this life. How amazing that it is. I'm not saying there aren't negative things that, as I've often said, not life affirming. And we definitely need to address those things, right? To move toward the affirmation of the amazing life, the engine of life, being. But that's our commitment. That's the place from which we observe. Isn't that the whole point? Does a negative perception drag us down into it? Or do we see it simply for what it is and move on, ameliorate it, address it if need be, put ointment on it, bandage it, fix it, or eliminate it? But your decisions should come from Buddhaness, your profound appreciation of the moment-to-moment instantiation of being, a verb. In a letter written before he left Sado, he said, quote, I, NICHIREN, am a native of Awa, a province of Japan where the sun goddess had her abode in the beginning and founded this nation. She is indeed the loving mother of the people of this country. There must be some remote and mysterious connection with my life that I, NICHIREN, was born in that province. He's talking about his karmic freight train, right? In another letter written after his retirement in Minobu, he repeats the same idea and says, quote, although Awa is a province far away from the center, it is somewhat like the center of Japan because the sun goddess found there her first abode. And I, NICHIREN, began the propagation of the true practice of Buddhism by proclaiming it for the first time there in Awa. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, right? Sometimes he speaks more mystically about his spiritual experience, his presence everywhere. Let's see what this author thinks is mystical. He wrote from Minobu to a nun in Sado, who had served him during his days of exile there, saying in conclusion, quote, when you long to see NICHIREN, look in reverence at the rising sun or the moon rising in the evening. My person is always reflected in the sun and moon, and moreover, hereafter I shall surely meet you in the paradise of Vulture Peak. Now, that's very poetic. It's not meant literally, is it? But it's a reminder, right? There have been times when I knew I was locked into my earthly self, struggling. And I would remember those words, and I would look up in the sky at the moon, and I would remember, oh yeah, my little life here on the planet is also inextricably not just connected, but actually part of millions and jillions of miles of all of this. That moon I'm looking at right now, it's mine. It's my moon. Oh, you see it too? Look, it's our moon. Oh, it's the moon. It's like life. It's not individual. but it's perceived from this vehicle that, in point of fact, isn't independent from everything else. Right? Go back to the teaching of dependent origination. This is the common thread throughout all of Buddhism. You and I are the instantiation of the same energies that made galaxies and photons of light and atoms and molecules. We're all sharing that same life. Moment to moment, moment to moment. What separates us is attitude. What separates us is our belongings, our possessions. What's silliness? It's entertaining. But when it becomes more than that, when it's identity, we're separating ourselves from life writ large. Why do that? That's suffering. That's samsara. It is by mankind in all kinds of existence that the ideal perfection is to be achieved, and therefore the stage of its realization in this world, the abode of mankind. Nowhere else can we attain this enlightenment but through this instantiation creating a sentient mind. The universe has provided for this option, this potential to occur. Wow, that would suggest that we're not the center of the universe, that we're a product of it, happening moment to moment to moment. All right, I've gone on long enough. I just saw the clock, so we will continue from this point on in the next video. I hope this is making sense to you. In a way, this is all we talk about over and over and over and over and over again. But maybe something in this piqued your interest, made that aha moment happen for you. I hope so. I hope that every time you sit down in front of your Butsudan and you chant Namo Myo Renge Kyo, that you have those aha moments. And in that way, I deeply appreciate your practice. I know it's amazing. I know that sometimes it's so amazing that it's hard to fathom. All the more amazing. Please be well. Take care of your health. Okay. Take care of your health and be kind to yourself. Right? We're living through many zillions of freight trains of karma. To appreciate that is sometimes overwhelming. So give yourself a break. Just keep that practice strong, because the solution's always there. Thank you for your support. Please remember to like and subscribe. It helps do our bodhisattva work. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay? Bye for now. Myo.